Okay. So good morning, everyone, to be here in this session. And I would like just to introduce very quickly our project, our pilot project, just to introduce the questions that we decided to go deep. So the Parma team chose as pilot project an existing project called Parma, a Mountain of Quality. This project was coordinated by Borri Foundation that we have as host here. We have Marianna Borri as a representative of the Borri Foundation. And this project was aimed at supporting the farmers of the mountain of Parma, which is an area, less favored area, with some problem of poor economic activity and land abandonment. So the Borri Foundation started a project to try to strengthen the value chain of the product from mountain area, creating a marketing strategy and using a collective brand called Parma, a Mountain of Quality. So we started from this project and we tried to create and support this project, developing two main actions. The first one was, the idea was to try to map the farmers and understand the characteristic of the farmers of the mountain. So which kind of product they produce, which are their quality signs that they use, which are the marketing channels. And we try to record both quantitative and qualitative data, asking and making interviews, open interviews, to understand the history of the families, the problems that they have, how they face up these problems. And with this data, we try to make a report about the category of producer that we have, where they are in the territory, and which are their economic activities. On the other hand, we try to involve students to allow them to know better our territory. So we try to introduce innovative teaching methods involving students in the research, so trying to create a link among the theoretical and empirical knowledge. And so two students participated to the research and they wrote their final thesis, post-degree thesis. And other students is still doing their trainees because we are still planning new activities, even if the CU project is going to end, but we are going to continue. And we try to bring producers to students, recording video about their life, their activities, their problem, and using this video for a student competition in which 40 students from all the world participated. As we said before, Liz, they said before that, but unlikely we developed this project during the pandemic time, so we would like to go to the mountain area and organize meeting and try to speak more and more with our farmers, but unlikely this was not possible. We could meet the farmer in the first period of the research, and then we had to manage doing interview online and by Skype or telephone. But I'm introducing this project to introduce our main issues, that is trust of this section, because we think that we understood that the main issue, the main elements that influence the great success, the success of this kind of project is trust, as Alessio said before too. So first of all, we consider that farmers or other stakeholders can be distrust about new projects. Especially farm in rural area, there are a lot of institutions or associations then try to involve farmers to participate to a new project, but too often happen that these farmers didn't find a benefit for them, so they're very distrust, they are not very stimulated in participating to this project. So we consider very important to try to create a dialogue, and that can be transparent, simple, a true dialogue with them. And we consider also that trust can be the element that can ensure a long-term relationship among stakeholders. So I would just share with you and launch some questions on which I would like that we could work on. But before, I would just to share with you this reflection, because we try to, we consider that we have two different levels of stakeholder. One level is, for example, the relationship that we have with Borri Foundation. So public institution, research and educational institution, association, consortia, and NGO that can be more similar in one sense institution. So maybe the question that we can share with you about how can we can enhance the trust among stakeholders that are on the same level is different in respect on how we can enhance the trust with stakeholders with different level. I mean, we notice a difference in the trust creation among University of Parma and Borri Foundation, and about University of Parma and farmers. So we can say that we have an horizontal perspective or vertical perspective to consider when we answer to the question that I am going to share with you. So we would like, I will read all the question, and then maybe we can just speak and see how, and listen to your contribution. No? So the first one is how to recover the stakeholder trust, which can be the tools that we can use, the activities or the perception that we can have to try to recover this stakeholder trust that maybe they lost during the last years or the sometimes decades. And the second question is how to create a dialogue to understand stakeholders' needs. So which communication strategies we can develop and dissemination techniques. How we can establish a long-lasting relationship with the stakeholder. And the last one is what tools can be provided to the students for a deeper understanding on stakeholders' needs. So I think that all people that are in this session have experiences about these issues. So we are pleased to listen to you, to listen to your idea, and so maybe we can reflect together and organize some ideas together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Marianna. Thanks for your introduction. Now it's time for discussion. And yeah, there's a list of questions, but of course you just feel free to make any comment or any other question you think can be useful for some findings and for taking out some take-home messages for our project. Thank you. Is there anyone who would like to start? Yes, I see Guglielmo. Please.
Okay. I would like just to add to other issues. So I'm not going to give answers, but I'm going to further complicate the problem.
Okay.
I first is about trust. Just one idea. Trust is very much based on past success of collective actions. So trust, of course, is created by strong dialogue with the stakeholders, but trust is also the result of a long history of the territory, and especially if these collective actions have been successful in the past. This is very important for creating trust. This means that in all projects of local development, we must be very careful in getting effective results for stakeholders. Not only dialogue, but concrete and material results are very important. The second issue is that, for instance, I have the impression, maybe I'm wrong, that in our project we have missed the idea of conflict. I mean, we have thought always as it were always possible to align the different interests of stakeholders. So we talk about stakeholders' needs, stakeholders' problems, but it may happen that stakeholder needs are not homogeneous in the territory, that stakeholders' interests are different. And this, of course, makes the collective action much more difficult, and the role of neutral institutions as universities even more important in trying to align the different interests. This was my second consideration to break the ice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Guglielmo. Lindsay.
Thank you. Yes, I suppose my reflections immediately are that it's a lot of it is down to transparency, and building on what Guglielmo's just said. You know, I think being honest and open and transparent about our successes, but also our failures, as an institution, and the way that we have engaged with our stakeholders is really, really important. And I think, from my point of view, in Exeter, I've worked at Exeter University for about 15 years, and most of that time was in research. And it was only when I moved over into a regional engagement role that I realised that there was so much distrust between our community and our university. I wasn't aware of it. I was blissfully carrying on in my role as a researcher and hadn't realised that so many of our local communities, the voluntary sector, saw the university as this big institution that had its own agenda and didn't necessarily have any interest in the needs or agendas of local people. And I think that is still very much the case here. I think we're working very hard to change that, but I think there's still a perception of lots of local people and organisations that the university is a very large, powerful organisation with money, and they have a very big impact in the region, but it's not necessarily a positive one, and they're not necessarily aware of all the positive impact that we've had as well. So I think a lot of it is about being transparent, communicating really well, celebrating what we do when we do it well, but also being open and transparent when we make mistakes.
Okay, thank you. Now, Tim.
Yes, and in addition to that, what Lindsay said and what Guglielmo said, I think it's very important to make clear, and that makes the thing a little bit more complicated as well, that we are dealing in an area when we are doing community-university partnerships, which is characteristic. I think we are dealing with a field where we where we need to deal with really high expectations from different sides, especially from the community side. And there we need to make sure to be transparent just from the beginning, and make clear that or speak about the university can make out of this community-university partnership. Yeah, basically that's a experience we made in Magdeburg, that we are, when we work with the cultural landscapes there, that we are in a field of very high expectations, and we got a little bit in this fight, I would say, and the conflicts there, which are operating in this dynamics there, and this is something we should clear up just from the beginning. I would think, and this yeah, will enhance trust as well. So.
Okay, thank you. So, well, I think that Alessio told us something very interesting about these latest issues that you are raising. Particularly, there are so many stakeholders involved, and some of them are very much embedded in the territory, some others are less embedded in the territory. So there could be conflicts even between the institutions. So just before getting to the field, the ground, where the community is waiting for support and help, well, there's a previous stage where conflicts between institutions or different interests between institutions have to be solved or faced. I would like to ask Alessio, in your experience, how to make at least the institutions get ready to listen to the stakeholder needs and to design a comprehensive project. Thank you.
Well, I don't know if I have the right answer. I agree with Guglielmo as well, and we have a lot of problems in terms of conflicts in Marche region, especially, you know, when you have to rebuild something after an earthquake. Everybody has his own idea. I mean, what is the best strategy, and you have to manage conflicts between the farmers, the sheep breeders, and the regional government, and what is the priority, what I need to prioritize. So I mean, these are big issues. What I discovered on one side, if I look to the stakeholders in terms of local community, the most important thing is the empowerment. So for instance, when you bring in the territory from abroad, because you can try, as you did in Parma, to involve international students in local projects. For many farmers and for many local communities, this is a sort of empowerment, because they feel themselves observed and studied, and so they wonder, if you help them to reflect on this, they wonder, oh, probably even if I live in a marginal area, I have something important to tell others. I have something that is relevant for others. So this is one of the sources of empowerment, but the empowerment, in my opinion, is a key word. On the other side, there are some strategic, concerning the regional institutions, there are some strategic moments, strategic periods that are more, they represent more breeding grounds for this kind of collaborations. For instance, at the beginning of the programming period, as we are in Europe, 2021, 2027, once you have to redesign the policy frameworks, the policy objectives, for sure the regional governments need to make a sort of public consultation. Those public consultations can become or something that you have to do because you are the university and you have to send someone to represent, to be the representative of the university, or otherwise they can be effective moment to reflect on the role of universities. Those tools that I told you, that I mentioned, like these H-Innovate, are some framework just to help each other to reflect what is the contribution that my university can bring to this issue. What is the contribution that your university can bring to this issue? What is the level of specialization we have in our university, and how the regional government could help us to make the most of our specialization? So, these are strategic moments. These are they don't happen very often, because then you have to think to the problem of the routine that all the secretary offices they need to make every day in order to carry on their work. So even the regional government is not always open to listen you. There are some specific moments. And so how do we live as university researchers, scholars, administrative officers, this period? Are they crucial, or it's something that we have to do? So these are some thoughts.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that what you just said is very much coherent with Lindsay's comment. She said we need to be realistic about what we are able to achieve as a university. Is now our responsibility to solve all societal problems. Indeed, we are not the best organization to solve most problems. Sometimes we should leave it to the experts. Yeah, sure. And I would like to get connected to this by saying that, first of all, most of us are teachers. We teach, and we go to the classroom and we talk to the students. And I think we should very much focus on this. So how to get the student prepared to face the real world, the production world. This is, I think, an interesting issue. The best way to teach and to make the student closer to the production world. And I see Marianna hand.
So I just want to say that I perfectly agree about the comment of Lindsay's comments. And concerning to that, I think it's very important to define our activity and our possibility with the stakeholder, because I see that sometimes they make expectation because someone goes to them and they think that you can solve all their problem. And it's difficult to make them understand which is the role of university. So it's very important to have clear, first of all, that we can have clear our possibility and share it from the beginning, to not to create misunderstanding and bad humor about the project. And the second reflection, it's about what you were saying, Cecilia, about how we can make students closer, which kind of techniques we can teach. And I think that's one of the main elements that sometimes we can teach, sometimes not. It's just a characteristic of people, is the empathy. Because when you have to approach to stakeholder, or for example, in our case, to farmer, I work, before working in Parma University, I work on international cooperation in South America, and I was working with farmers community too. And I see how it's important to be close to them in a human sense. I mean, and this characteristic sometimes is just a person characteristics, but maybe we can think about give some lesson of anthropology approach or social approach, even if we are I don't know, an economic department, for example, but it's important to share social techniques of research or participatory research. So I think that could be interesting in the third mission area, or to create a third mission framework in which we can think about methodology that we can share even if the students are engineering or economists or something else. But I think it's very important in this period in which we specialized students more and more to try to give instrument tools to interpret the reality in a wider sense, with a wider vision. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Marianne. Yeah, I think we have to define. I mean, the role of university has to be defined. I mean, there are some borders. Some knowledge skills are produced inside of the university, and knowledge transfer is very good. We can receive also feedbacks, but we are not policy makers. We can advise, but we are not the policy makers. Yes, this is, I think, a good point. Also to avoid disappointment, which is very, very common in this kind of projects. And I also think that a big problem for universities is to produce long-lasting relationships with the stakeholders, because we appear and then we disappear, and these produce mistrust. This impact very much negatively on the trust that stakeholder can have on public institutions, something like clouds up in the sky, appearing, disappearing. That's what I think. Any other thought?
Maria Cecilia, if I can, oh, sorry, Guglielmo, please.
Okay. Don't worry. Yes, okay. Please.
No, I was saying that this is another crucial point, because sometimes stakeholders felt themselves as a sort of source for our research, because we go there, we have to make interviews and to collect data and so on, something that is not a proof of this trust, because I mean, of this trust, because I mean, you need to demonstrate that you really have a public good, a common good, as your ultimate objective. Otherwise, if you don't give this demonstration, this is a big trouble. And all even the long-lasting collaborations, at a certain point, they can collapse. My personal experience in this period is that I switched from Macerata and Marche region to Pisa and Tuscany. And what about my role in Macerata? What about the research team? I was the only one in my research field, agricultural economics. There's nobody else. I have a lot of young guys, young researchers working with me, but the university doesn't want to go on with this scientific sector, with this discipline. So this is a big trouble. And I promised, because it's my personal concern, that I will carry on other projects with the regional territory of Marche region through University of Pisa, because Macerata doesn't want to go on with this kind of initiatives, despite the fact that this storytelling that I told you in this presentation has been presented for the evaluation of technician at national level by my university, by University of Macerata. So on one side, they have presented this product as something to be evaluated, to be assessed by the Ministry of Education and Research, of University of Research. On the other side, they don't want to bet on this again. And it's not an institutional feeling I have in this case. It's my personal feeling. In fact, my last question was, what about committed, engaged researchers? It's only a matter, it's only a problem for engaged researchers, or it's something that is institutional? I see this kind of detachment between the two objectives now.
Okay, thank you. Guglielmo?
Yes, I would like to this is an issue that has been raised both by Lindsay and by Alessio in their interventions of this morning, but I would like to emphasize this. And it is also an answer to what you said and Marianna said about teaching. The important thing is that the third mission, public engagement, but the same thing is true for internationalization, must not be conceived as parallel activities of the universities and of the teachers. This is the problem. So third mission and internationalization should be the mainstream. This means that third mission and internationalization should change radically our way of teaching, not only methods, but also to have a strong impact on the content of what we teach. So to do third mission and to do internationalization must not be something else. We do our normal things and then we do third missions projects or internationalization projects. No, this is not like this. It doesn't work. We don't have time to do all these kind of things. It is the way in which conceive our normal work that must be changed radically. So what Marianna said is true. We have to change our way of teaching, especially in Italy, where we have a very traditional way of teaching based on frontal lecture more than in other countries. This does not work, but it doesn't not work as a way of learning, as a way of facilitating the growth of people. We must change completely this way of teaching. There must be a strong participation. The idea that there is a theoretical part in our and a practical part in our teaching must be broken. Theory and practice are not two different things. So very often I feel my students who say we do too much theory. This is stupid. They say something true, but they say in the wrong way. It is not that we teach too much theory. We teach theory in the wrong way, which is a completely different thing. So my answer to the question raised by Cecilia and by Marianna, exactly, we have to change our way of teaching in emphasizing participation and also critical thinking. And this is that in Italy we don't do at all. So, okay.
Yeah, thank you. And now just before giving the floor to Tim, I would like to add that this is a problem. So the lack of critical thinking starts from the high school and even before. So when we got the students, when we had the student in our classes, they are not used to speak and to speak out their minds. It's really difficult to get something out of them. I mean, they are thinking, but they don't want to talk. That's what my feeling, and that's what other colleagues think. Tim, please.
Yes, in connection to that, what Guglielmo said, I think we need a different staff structure at the universities or higher education institutions in general as well, because in Germany, for example, you have the opportunity to work in management, in the administration, and then in research and teaching, always connected in small contracts. And the only opportunity for community university partnerships or community engagement projects in Germany right now is to do a project like the Socially Engaged University project. And this limits the whole idea of a successful third mission and an engaged university, because you really are not able to build sustainable relationships. The only way we have right now, this is something Philip does in Magdeburg as well, he can use his teaching duties he has, because this is something that's steady, to build their connections with the city and local communities, etc. But from a research perspective, we all are bound to our short contracts, and then we have to move through the universities, etc. And there's only the professorial level which is able to set up community university partnerships that last. There, I think there should, when a university wants to be successful in the field of submission, there should be staff changes. At least in the case of Germany, I don't know. Lindsay, you're working in the field of community engagement at universities. This is something really special, I think. In Germany, we just have really few universities where we have this opportunity for staff to work in this field, and who can say, this is my job right now, and I'm responsible for this field of university work as well.
Yeah, sorry, am I stepping in ahead of somebody else here? But yeah, I think I've just put my hand up to talk about that in itself, really, Tim, because I think here in the UK, it's very much, it's recognised that it's the right approach, and we are increasingly recognising that by engaging with the stakeholders, whoever they are, you know, it's going to enhance the research, it's going to enhance the quality, it's going to lead to greater impact. But the big question is how is it supported? How is it funded? How is it rewarded? And most researchers, it's very difficult. You know, we've got some fantastic researchers who really want to do good quality, proper engagement right at the beginning, but it's really hard when the emphasis is always on publication and getting the next grant in. And I'm sure it's the same all over the world. There's a lot of pressure on researchers to publish, and how have they got the time then to do the engagement, which, as we all know, takes time. So I think it's in the UK here, certainly some universities are looking at it and are already putting it in place, but looking at reward mechanisms to better support our researchers to be able to engage, and putting it into the promotion criteria as well. So we're trying to say it's all right to spend some time away from writing bid papers, you know, because there's the recognition that it is going to lead to greater longer term impact. But it's hard.
Yeah. And you, Lindsay, typed that critical thinking is taught in primary school in the UK these days. And that's very interesting. That's very interesting.
I only know that for my own children, and you know, certainly from a very young age, they're taught to question. They're taught to ask and hypothesize. You know, and they question. I think certainly, you know, in terms of fake news and what have you, certainly around COVID, for example, you know, I think our young people are really taught to question what is available to them, because I think there's so much information available on the social media these days, totally different to when we were children, and they are very much sort of taught to think through whether or not they can believe what they read in the media and what have you. So yeah, I think critical thinking is something that is being taught, perhaps not so overtly, but I think, you know, children are being taught through other processes to think more carefully about what they are learning.
Okay, Marianna, did you raise your hand? Yeah.
Yes, it was just a comment on what Alessio was saying before, because I feel very true when he said that a lot of time stakeholder, or for example farmer in our case, feel that researcher go there, take data, collect data, and write their paper, and that's it. No. So I think that it's very important to introduce activities in the research design to feedback the data, and to use this data to think about strategy for them, or I don't know, whatever, but it's important to have a double flow of information, not just the researcher that collect information and write and publish because they are not interested in it, but they need to feel that the research can be useful for their activity and their objective and their strategy. So because I think that this is a problem of time sometimes. I mean, we are all full of activities, and yeah, for a researcher, the main activity is the write paper. So sometimes we forget, or we just don't have time, and we postpone the feedback, to give feedback to them. While I think it's very, very important to maintain long-term relationship.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment? Well, yeah, 2 days ago, I was talking about this Congress in class, and I also introduced them our pilot project and the Parma una montagna di qualità, the collective brand. Well, the first question I was asked was, but are we sure that the consumer will understand this initiative? There are so many overlapping initiatives. So this is a completely different problem, but I was surprised, but I also liked this comment from the students. As they put on the floor another very important topic. So sometimes we must be very aware of what we are doing, and in particular in our case, I think be very much aware that we have to work. Again, I mean, we university have to work just considering and taking into account of the reality of what the markets need, or what are the final stakeholder requirements. And sometimes another problem that we are out of sight, and we lose the strict connection with the reality. This is again something that university has to consider. So just it needs to be very much embedded with the real world production, or whatever society, again, so on. So I just would like to share with you this comment and this question from the class, from the students. Okay, any other comment? Consider that in the afternoon we will have to wrap up what we have said here, our comments, and I think that Mariana and I will wrap all our comments during the break, and for sure we will stress the role of university in teaching, the need of thinking and rethinking not only the ways, not only how, but also what to learn in classes. This is very important. And also to the other aspect, to acknowledge the limits of the university, and which is also coherent with what Alessio said, empowerment to the stakeholders. These, I think, are three important points that we are going to stress, underline in our wrap-up conclusions. And I would, conflicts are another aspect, but I would, I would stick to these main points, if you agree with me. Okay, Tim, thank you. Guglielmo? Yeah? Okay. Okay, now,
Lindsay would like to speak.
Lindsay, yes, please.
So I don't want to put anybody on the spot. I was just wondering whether there was anybody here from a non-university organisation that has been a partner, that whether they got any comment to make about trust from the other side. You know, I think it's all very well for us as an institution to think about it, but it'd be really useful if somebody that has partnered with any of our universities could give a perspective from their side. But again, equally, put anybody on the spot if nobody's happy to do that.
Yeah, here, see, there are some, maybe a few students, and if they like, they are welcome to make comments or questions. And even in Italian, maybe we can translate if they prefer. The same if Marianna from Fondazione Borri would like to say something, to add something in Italian or English as she likes. And anything more? Yeah, this is another problem, that at the end, most of the time we just talk among ourselves and we miss the stakeholders. Please, Marianna.
Parlerò in italiano per comodità mia, scusate. Trovo che questo approccio dell'università sia molto utile e nuovo, almeno per come io ho conosciuto l'università fino ad oggi. La cosa che mi incoraggia anche nell'andare avanti nel progetto è che l'università è in grado di fornire, come dire, una visione diversa da quella che io posso avere del progetto stesso, degli strumenti che io non ho, delle risorse anche, sia personali e sia di altro tipo che la società civile non ha. Nel nostro caso, per esempio, noi abbiamo conosciuto molto bene gli agricoltori con cui abbiamo lavorato, quindi abbiamo conosciuto le loro esigenze, cioè le domande che sono state poste dall'università le abbiamo poste innanzitutto noi all'inizio a loro. Però l'approccio dell'università appunto è diverso dal nostro ed è in grado di dare, come dire, una logica, una coerenza, una struttura al discorso che noi non saremmo stati in grado di dare. E quindi anche uno studio della materia che a noi poteva sfuggire, delle soluzioni che a noi potevano sfuggire. Poi è chiaro che ci vuole la collaborazione degli stakeholders, cioè loro devono darsi da fare, devono approfittare dell'occasione e quindi cercare appunto loro stessi una soluzione. Sappiamo bene insomma quali sono i problemi del nostro specifico progetto. Ecco.
Grazie. Grazie. Well, good news from the stakeholders. They are congratulating, saying that we did a good job with the pilot project to the extent that the university has a different vision compared to the one from the other stakeholders, and different tools, different resources as well. And another university has been able to provide the project with a coherent framework and also some solutions that were not so evident to the other stakeholders. And on the other hand, university is useful and can provide such a framework, but of course, stakeholders need to be proactive, cannot just wait for the solution because it will never work this way. That's more or less the translation, and sorry if it's not correct or complete.
Thank you very much, and thank you to both of you, and thank you to all of you for hosting this in English as well, because it's really appreciate that it's very difficult for other people, and it's very easy for me being English, so appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, I think it's time for the break, and I really want to say thank you again to Alessia and all the others who joined this breakout session, and we'll meet back again. For those of you who will be present again in the afternoon, we'll meet in 1 hour. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Grazie.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
Marianna, Maria Cecilia,
Sì,
vi ho
vai.
inviato
Ho visto.
la presentazione, va bene? Se può essere utile.
Ho visto, grazie mille e grazie per aver partecipato, veramente è stato molto interessante, quindi grazie. E niente, per qualsiasi cosa restiamo in contatto, siamo qui.
Bene, grazie Marianna. Ciao Guglielmo.
Ciao Alessio.
Ciao, buon lavoro.
Ciao Marianna.
Ciao Guglielmo.
Fino ad ora mi sembra molto bene.